It's so good to be with all of you today on a pretty important day for the future of our country, future of education, and the future of science. What kind of day are you having today? How are you feeling? Hopeful? What are you hoping for? Why don't you let us know in the chat? I'll tell you what kind of day I'm having. I ate an entire container of raw cookie dough and coffee for breakfast this morning. That's the kind of day I'm having. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I do know is that all of us here right now, and a whole lot more, are going to work together to make a difference for the kids and the adults of Northeast Ohio, not only because we want to, but because we have to. I think it's safe to say that there's never been a more important moment than now to be working for gains in STEM education at a time when science is under wholesale attack and when STEM is, frankly, very, very white. And the NeoSTEM ecosystem is positioned to help strengthen your work by forging meaningful collaborations and providing a space and a venue for those collaborations to take shape. Today, we're going to be diving into specific work that the NeoSTEM ecosystem can and should be leading as part of this whole redesign that you've all been a critical part of. We're also going to be giving you a little more time to get to know one another. And we're going to meet a new colleague, and not a longtime colleague for Alyssa and I, but new for many of you, who's going to be helping us in the coming months with several projects. Before I hand things over to Alyssa to frame the rest of our time together, I wanted to recognize Karen Alpert, who's working with the Right Board to help with the development of Explore IT, a digital gateway to IT talent information, resources, opportunities, and connections. Karen was looking for a way to get this new platform exposure with the thought leaders in Northeast Ohio STEM. And so we said, of course, that they all meet here once a month and you should join us. Karen?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you for a few minutes about this exciting new initiative on which we're working. So as you all know, RIGHT is a workforce alliance focused on developing IT talent. They are also the tech talent arm of the Greater Cleveland Partnership. And as part of that mission to really develop a pipeline of diverse, qualified, industry responsive IT talent, we are launching a new project initiative venture called Explore IT. And what Explore IT is, it is going to be a customized search engine for topics related to IT talent and careers in Northeast Ohio. So this will be a digital gateway, if you will, to the most current information on IT, talent, careers, jobs, opportunities, resources, organizations, programs in Northeast Ohio. And it will be sourced from all the data that's on the websites of those that are involved in the IT talent development ecosystem. So websites of IT employers, websites of educators, websites of organizations such as yourselves and workforce and economic development, STEM, and all that around what will help students, job seekers really understand IT careers, what's available, connect employers to students and job seekers, and keep the region connected. So it is access to relevant, useful results based on a user's inquiry. So just think about Google. It works just like Google. In fact, it's going to be used off of a Microsoft Bing platform, but it's not going to have the ads. It's not going to have the pop-ups. It's not going to have all the other distractions that we get when we're searching for something. And it's all going to be based on Northeast Ohio data. And it'll be the fastest, most effective means to locate up-to-the-date information. So we're anticipating that this will be the go-to resource in Northeast Ohio for all the students, job seekers, educators, employers, and other community organizations that make up the workforce development ecosystem. So why do we need this? Well, as you all know, addressing IT talent gap is a critical thing in Northeast Ohio. There are thousands of jobs that are open that can't be filled. And what's required is a central comprehensive source for information. There's so many wonderful organizations within our ecosystem that have great information on programs and data and market information and jobs, but there is not a central source that people can go to access it. So what we need Explore IT so that students and job seekers can learn about what IT careers and opportunities are available in Northeast Ohio. So educators can help their students know how to choose a career in IT. So employers can connect with students and job seekers. And so the workforce and economic development organizations and other community organizations can collect and share ever-changing industry information. So how will this impact Northeast Ohio? We are looking that this single source opportunity will provide students and job seekers with greater engagement because they'll be able to go to one source quickly for information, accurate, up-to-date information. It'll connect all the regions, organizations, assets, resources. It'll reach a broad audience through a very accessible digital platform. So it's not a website, it's a search engine, just like Google. It'll provide a shared approach to data collection and dissemination. It'll serve as a unique platform for employers to attract candidates, which is huge. And it's going to become a recognized regional brand, we feel, that will help to draw new companies and talent. So in a nutshell, think Google, think all things IT, Northeast Ohio, and think it will be able to be accessed by anyone, and it'll serve students, job seekers, IT employers, all the IT organizations involved in the economic ecosystem, as well as educators. So that was my quick spiel. Any questions?
So if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat and we'll make sure to get those to Karen. Karen, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but my favorite TV show in the 80s was Who's the Boss? And you look just like the mom from Who's the Boss, which means that I would do basically anything you told me.
That's great.
So what do we need to do if folks who are on this call right now want to get involved, want to get their organizations involved? What's their next step? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so a couple things I missed. First thing, and then I'll answer your question. And this is really important because I think it's so incredibly cool, is the students from Cleveland State University are actually developing the technology platform as part of their senior class project. So it's a great collaboration opportunity. Now, in answer to your question, Jeremy, it's very easy to get involved. All we need is the URL to your website. So because Explore IT is a search engine, it will scour the website for information based on a user's search. So let's say a user wants to know about cybersecurity jobs in Northeast Ohio, or how do I learn about a career in cybersecurity? Any website that is, and we're calling them stakeholders, that is a stakeholder website that's participating with us in this project, the search engine will scour that website and then pull up the results relative to that particular search. So all we need is the okay to say, yes, I'm in, use my URL, here's my URL. And we would like your logo, a high resolution logo. And that's it. You don't need to create new information. Of course, we ask that your information that's on your website is current, and I'm sure it is. And we think that the more, obviously, the more robust of a tool this would be is going to be based on the more participants we have. So we're hoping hundreds of organizations are going to be part of this. We're doing a beta test right now with probably around 25 to 40 organizations, and we're hoping to roll that out next month. And if that, if that works and if that's a go, then we're hoping to be able to complete this by, I would say, spring of next year, first quarter next year.
That sounds great, Karen. So if you're listening right now, if you're with us and you're interested, you can either send an email to Alyssa or go ahead and let us know in the chat, and we'll make sure to get all of those names to Karen, and we'll introduce everybody. Rightboard is a really critical partner for Northeast Ohio, and so I know I'm excited about the possibilities that this lends, and I'm excited to see kind of where it goes from here. Karen, thank you for jumping in and sharing the status with us, and I hope you'll join us again in a few months and let us kind of know where things are, what's progressed, what's changed, and all of that.
I would love to. Thank you, and thank you, Jeremy. I hope you have a good meeting.
Thank you, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Before we continue on to Alyssa, I'd like to introduce my friend, Alyssa's friend, Veronica Gonzalez. Veronica serves as the director of the STEM Learning Ecosystems Community of Practice, leading learning communications and peer collaborations for leaders across 89 national and 4 global communities. Veronica facilitates the strategic planning efforts in regional communities. She joined the TIES team with an extensive and diverse experience in the nonprofit and public sectors. Her biography goes on for about 14 more paragraphs, but she has implored me not to read all of it. So I will stop there. Veronica is going to be joining NeoSTEM on a couple of projects coming up to help lead. And so I wanted her to have an opportunity to say hello so that you could get to know her a little bit. Veronica, how are you doing?
I'm great, Jeremy. I had a muffin, which might as well have been carrot cake this morning for breakfast. So not quite a tub of cookie dough, but right there with you.
Sometimes you have to eat your feelings is what it's not only for romantic comedies. Sometimes you have to eat your feelings is kind of what it boils down to. So Veronica, I know that or as I understand it, we're not ready quite yet to talk specifically about the things that you'll be working on. But I think it's safe, and if it's not safe, then I can be in trouble, to say that Veronica is going to be helping as we reshape what NeoSTEM looks like moving forward. So you're going to be hearing from Veronica via email, via phone call, via some sort of communication. So when you see that name, when you hear this voice, and when you see that face, make sure that's not spam. Even though you haven't heard of her before, and even though she's not from Cleveland, please make sure to talk to her and share all of the things that you're concerned about, hoping for as we think about this next iteration of NeoSTEM. Veronica, you have anything else you want to share?
I don't think so. I will say that I've met quite a few of you when we were planning the Global STEM Community of Practice, the STEM Learning Ecosystems Community of Practice meeting. We had it in Cleveland, and I have met quite a few leaders there. We did several meetings with the planning committee and super thrilled about the work. Otherwise, just sending everybody lots of positive vibes today. And I'll put my email in the chat for those of you that would like to reach out in the meantime. But thank you.
Those of you who are at Cleveland, Veronica's the other person who makes a fool of herself on stage, like I do at these events, to try to keep things moving and try to keep people engaged. Alyssa, so I know that last time, I hope that you're with us now. I know you're having some technical things we will see here in a second. I know that last time we broke out, we had a lot of conversations. Were there any themes, any kind of big ideas that were bubbling up a lot in those conversations that we should be thinking about as we continue forward? I'm gonna, oh, you know what? Alyssa, if you're talking, you are muted, and I don't know how to unmute you on your phone. So we are not going to terribly worry about that. Alyssa, if you hear, try to get back in. Oh, is that you? There you are.
Can you hear me now?
I do.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. And I heard everything that you said, everything that Veronica said, and everything that Karen said. And Jeremy, before I answer your question, can I just share that I had 2 donuts this morning? It's been a long time since I've done that. So before we dive into, me answering the question and then us, kind of talking about where we go next, would it be okay with you, Jeremy, as kind of our controller here? Could we unmute others and just talk for a couple of minutes about, what everybody's thoughts and fears are? I couldn't see the chat. Maybe a lot of that's already happened.
Sure. So everybody does have the ability to unmute, Alyssa. I
Yeah.
am curious that those of you who are with us right now who have been quiet with all your cameras off. Normally we at least have a couple cameras on. I can only assume it's because everybody's eating tubs of cookie dough, but maybe not. Who's with us that's willing to kind of jump in first and share a little bit about what you're hoping? Oh,
Okay.
I
We'll
don't think
take that.
anybody's going to jump in.
We'll take that silence as a hard no. Okay, so let's go. Let me respond to your question, which I should have done in the first place. Sorry about that, Jeremy. Yes, there were some very consistent themes that emerged. And one of the reasons, as Jeremy explained, that we asked Veronica to begin partnering with us a little bit is to take some of what your thoughts have been over the last couple of weeks, and some of your colleagues who are not on today's call. We had some pretty strong participation, both in the most recent, the October NeoSTEM meeting, as well as some information that you shared via Google form about, what are the biggest unmet needs for students in our region related to STEM education. You had strikingly similar responses to the follow-up question, which was what keeps you up at night related to STEM education. So, the biggest one that seemed to strike the loudest chord with everybody is that students and families simply just don't see STEM opportunities, and can't see themselves in STEM careers because people typically pictured in such careers don't look like them. And we're hearing that not only in Northeast Ohio, but quite honestly across the country, but very strongly here. One of the additionally strong points that you offered was that there was a lack of mentors or access to people who could be mentors for students. The perennial the engagement of students in remote or unconnected rural areas was a problem. Lack of neighborhood-based programming, and then technology, as well as a fear of STEM. Many of you said that students don't understand the practical applications of STEM subjects. You also commented that, we're still, despite all of us being aware, and many educators long aware of the dangers of teaching to the test, we still have a system that mandates and rewards for teaching to the test. A few of you shared that cross-cutting learning and less obvious career opportunities need to be elevated. Many of you talked about, being really deeply troubled by achievement and wealth gaps for Black and brown people compared to white people. And then, of course, because of COVID, the impact that we're going to see both in the near term as well as the longer term future about the lack of and the loss of hands-on opportunities that are so essential to STEM. So we reviewed, all of the data that you've been providing over not only the October meeting, but the September meeting as well, and then through various surveys that we have been sending out to members of the NeoSTEM community. And it's, I think we had participation from more than 150 different people sharing their thoughts. And so we went ahead and analyzed all of that data and made some preliminary sort of a template or a proposal for what NeoSTEM can begin thinking about as its priority. And the number one would be making STEM opportunities visible and relevant to students, families, and the entire community, with a very intentional focus on improving Black and Brown students' engagement with STEM. So based on, suggestions that many of you offered, we went ahead and prioritized some and analyzed some of the ideas that you offered, suggesting the shape that work can take. And so we've laid them out on a screen, and I can't see what you're seeing, so I'm sorry for this little bit of a disconnect. But the ideas that you offered for how to do that, they're 4 bullet points. Are they up on the screen now by chance, Jeremy?
The first of the 3 is, Alyssa, and I know that Angie put together kind of 3 slides that I think she's going to put here in the chat in a moment.
Okay.
And we are going to ask you, I know it really seems like for whatever reason, people are not super feeling camera talky today, but we do have to keep this work moving forward. So we are going to ask you all to have some brief conversations about these slides here in a couple moments. We promise to do our best to end this meeting a bit early because that's sort of the sense we're getting. Alyssa, I do have a question though that I think is a good one that was just asked to me in the chat that I'm hoping you can answer for us. So Terry is asking, is mentioning, and I bet she's not alone, that she's heard me and you on more than one occasion mention this idea of reshaping, rethinking NeoSTEM 2.0 or 3.0, these types of phrases. So she's asking, what was it before and what wasn't working about that?
Sure. That's Terry, that is an absolutely excellent question. And okay, I think there's a couple of different ways to respond to it. What it was before was far more loosely organized and operated. There were occasional meetings, occasional get-togethers. There wasn't necessarily, governing board. There wasn't necessarily, very clearly identified, articulated priority areas, as well as work groups at various times in the history, 5, 6, 7-year history of NeoSTEM. There have been work groups. There was an advisory board for a period of time. That went away. And I think what we're seeing, and one of the many reasons why we've asked Veronica to help us, is to learn what is working so well in other communities, and then to use the input from all of the NeoSTEM partners and the goals that you all share and articulate to us, to help come up with an organizational structure for NeoSTEM, shared work that we want to do together, and priorities. Does that help?
It does, Alyssa, and I'd like to add to it too. And I just use the phrase that I always tell people not to use, Alyssa. But I do want to mention also that that it's not that there wasn't good work that came out of NeoSTEM before. I think to me, there are 2 components that are pretty in line with what Alyssa's saying. The first is having that governing board, making sure that the people that NeoSTEM are serving are the ones who are guiding how it's serving them, which is a thing that could be improved in any organization, including NeoSTEM. And the other is, as somebody who's been loosely involved with NeoSTEM for 4 or 5 years, there was a lot of mission creep. So it's not that the programs weren't good or of high quality. I mean, obviously some were better than others, all those things, but it's not that there weren't really good programs. It's that what there wasn't was kind of a deep, overarching mission that all of the programs were serving to advance. It was what we sometimes call in our world random acts of STEM. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not as good a thing as it could be. Is that fair to say, Alyssa?
Yeah, totally fair. And let me add one other thing to that. And it's no, as Jeremy said, again, it's not as if good work wasn't happening, because it was. But there were a lot of reasons why NeoSTEM has been a little slow. And slow implies value, and I don't mean that to have value. Why NeoSTEM, maybe a better way of saying it, has taken some time to evolve and to mature. And that is because the whole notion of collaboration was super difficult for many in our region. It was a new concept for some organizations. The whole idea of working together for your own self-interest while also identifying the interests of a collective organization was new. And
Oops.
on those types of concerns, they happen here, they happen everywhere, and they're legitimate and they're valid. What our challenge will be is to ensure, that we do a great job of setting up the governance, setting up the work, explaining the work, making it very real, very tangible. And one final point, and then I'll be quiet, making it also measurable. And that is something that we have not done very well with in the past. Okay, Jeremy, I'm done now.
No, I think that's good, Alyssa, and I think that's an important conversation to have. So again, what I am hoping happens, because we do, even though we are tired and burned out and all of those things, we do need to keep this moving forward so that we can really make this change happen in this very needed year. I am going to ask Angie to split us into a couple of smaller groups, 2 or 3 groups, and I'm really hoping that you will quickly right now go ahead and open up the link that Angie put in the chat a couple minutes ago. When you move to your breakout room, you won't see that chat window anymore. So go ahead and open that now. We'll go into these breakout rooms and spend literally, I think, just let's call it 6 or 7 minutes talking about those things, looking at what those priorities that bubbled up are. Do those make sense to you? Are there things that are missing? Are there things that need to be clarified? Or are those to the 10 or so of you, are those quality focal points that we should be drilling down into? So Angie, if you don't mind going ahead and making those breakout groups, we're going to pull you back in about 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes. We're hoping that you'll have that conversation and that somebody will be willing to share that out. And then we'll try to get out of here a little bit early. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you back here in just a few moments. I think. Angie, are you still there?
I am here. It's
okay.
Working. It takes a couple minutes.
Got it.
But they're headed over in the breakout.
Thank you. Hi, Emily. Did you not end up in a breakout? That's okay.
I think so. I was like, do I need to do something?
Yeah, you should just pop over.
Here I go. Now I'm going.
Zoom is
Okay.
having issues today. It's not.
I got booted out and then I came back on.
Lots of people have, and getting Zoom failed issues and all sorts of things.
It's crazy. It looks like Milani's just
She got kicked out altogether also.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
She just came back in, so we can put her in a room. All right, I'm moving over.
Bye, Emily. Thank you.
Jeremy, did you want to go in a room or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. And Alyssa?
Hi, Milani. I think you're back in now. You should be getting a breakout room link here again in a second, hopefully.
Angie, I'd like to go to a room if possible.
Okay. Let's see.
All right, then I will too. Put Alyssa in first, but I'll go too. A different one than Alyssa.
All right.
Please.
Here you go. Veronica, are you good? You can hear.
Welcome back, everyone. Angie, did we have 3 groups? Can you tell me that?
We did not. We had 2.
We had 2 groups. Perfect.
Yep.
So from group 2, Sarah, at random, why don't I choose Sarah from group 2 to talk about kind of some of that discussion?
Sure. So broadly, we liked all 3 points, but we got into a little bit of a deeper discussion on point number 1, specifically in terms of what do we mean by opportunities. The text here, to me at least, read very much as career opportunities and career pipeline and connecting students with what could be their future jobs. But some of us work in these more kind of informal learning spaces or with K-8 students that might not be thinking that far ahead. And so we had a little bit of discussion around what other opportunities should be included under that umbrella, and also how to tie those opportunities to career opportunities, and even just looking at visibility of career options and tying an activity that might happen at a park or a science museum to what this could mean for you in the future. If you like this type of content, what careers actually go with that type of activity and how is it interconnected? And I think that's the bulk of it. Feel free to jump in, anyone else.
Yeah, Sarah, I think that was a good summary. Alyssa, the other thing that we talked about a lot, and Sarah kind of mentioned this, but I think it's worth mentioning is that that it's really critical that we get in front of young people so that they don't lose hope or lose a positive outlook on what their futures could look like. The career pipeline is great, but as Sarah mentioned, by middle school, and some of us have seen even younger, people have already made up their minds, particularly our young women and young boys and girls of color have already made up their mind about what's possible for them. And we need to get these experiences in the hands of all kids and get exemplar professionals in front of all of these kids to kind of shift and change that. So we know that career pipeline talk is important because it's what high schools are talking about and therefore school boards. It's what foundations are talking about and all of those things. But we've got to have a deep focus on the full STEM experience from preschool through adulthood. And from group 1, Imani was kind enough to volunteer. He said that people have had enough angst today and don't need additional angst. And he wants to be. I had the shirt I had on a minute ago, Imani, was my Mr. Rogers look for the helpers shirt.
Yeah.
But it was too close to green, so I was a floating head and turning invisible. Even my Purple Rain shirt, like
I do like your Purple Rain shirt, Darryl.
Yeah, but a portion of me is turning invisible. That like rectangle right there. You can see through my chest. So Imani, what about in group 1?
Yeah, I do want to start off by going off of your tangent earlier about comfort foods. I got to do a virtual program with the Horizon Center today, and we made ice cream. So I have like a whole little quart bag full of ice cream in my freezer right now. So it's perfect for today.
My kids are going to be real excited because they don't know it yet, but we are having macaroni and cheese palooza tonight to continue the theme.
Talk about comfort foods, all right? So yeah, in our group, we focus most of our time on the first slide there, but we spoke about making a more collective impact will give us a greater opportunity to bring more like parties to the table. So I think it was Jennifer from our group mentioned establishing partnerships with different industries in our community. So she said that the company she works for works with around like 15 hospitals in the area. So, but they need someone like NeoSTEM to help facilitate the relationship between like their organization. And please, Jennifer, if I'm saying this incorrectly, feel free to correct me, but need someone like NeoSTEM to facilitate the relationship between like their organization, the hospitals, and then getting like students or different schools or different like youth serving organizations involved to get those kids out to the jobs and maybe doing some like field trips and different stuff out there. We talked about students needing, like how imperative it is that students need to be able to identify the pathways forward in order to consider STEM. So I think that was like the second bullet on the first slide, but we really kind of like hammered the point down that like if the kids don't see, oh, I could be a doctor in the future, or I could be a mechanical engineer, and can see like the tangible results of those jobs and see people around them that have jobs like that, then why would they have any interest to get into the STEM fields in the first place? And then towards the end, I brought up the True to You program. So I'm not sure how many, about half of our group probably had heard of it. So I'm not sure how many people.
Amani, I was actually going to ask you if you could tell, because I see everyone talking about it and I don't know it. So I was hoping you could share what that is.
Awesome. And I'm going to, real quick before I get into it, I'm going to link Molly Fagali, I believe is her name. She is the CEO or the like executive director of the organization. Here is their website as well. So they're a mentorship program that focuses on 8th grade, and many of this, I know they work in Cleveland. I'm not sure if they work in the Cleveland suburbs as well. But they have this awesome curriculum. I mean, it's like a thick curriculum. So if you sign up, you go through a training where you learn the whole curriculum. They introduce you to some of your potential partners. And then you usually are paired with one other mentor within schools. So it's not just a STEM focused thing. I worked with someone that I like was an administrator somewhere like within CMSD, but people come from jobs like all over the spectrum. So it's a great opportunity to be around like kids that are going to be in high school. So I worked with Adlai Stevenson for the past like half years I've been with them. And we got to go to the high school choice fair and walk them through some of those decisions. So a lot of kids were looking into like STEM schools there. So really just trying to not like push them in a certain direction, but just like guide them along that journey. They have a great curriculum already established, but then you're able to add your own like personal little flair with it. And like I teach STEM programs. So for one of the lessons, they were talking about different learning styles. So I brought in a like marble roller coaster run project I do, and like tried to teach some of the learning styles through that project. So that was totally off of what the like regular curriculum was, but they allow you a little bit of leeway to throw some of your own personal flair into it. So for anyone that's looking for mentorship opportunities in the area, I really liked what Alyssa was saying earlier when she like brought up that point. And I think it's so important that they see people that
absolutely
just look like them, but they see adults that like care about them in their communities, because that just adds the kids then know they have like someone behind their backs to help move them forward and push them forward. So yeah, the information's right there in the chat.
Absolutely.
And I know that this is a quick turnaround. The registration closes on like the 9th to become a mentor. You have to have your background check in by then. And I'm glad I looked at the email because I honestly would have forgot about getting my background check done. But yeah, I encourage anyone that is interested to look into it. It's a terrific program.
First of all, Amani, every time anyone talks about working with Adlai Stevenson, I assume they're talking about the ghost of Adlai Stevenson and not the school, because it's much more interesting. Would you mind, Amani? Would you mind? Do you know Molly, whose name rhymes, which means that she's amazing?
Molly Fagali, yeah, you're right.
Do you know her at all?
A little bit. What, like, why?
Do you know her well enough that you wouldn't mind doing kind of a quick email introduction to Alyssa and Molly? Because yeah. I'd love to learn more. Alyssa's in phone world, so I'm not sure if she would, but I'm sure she would, because we are. There have been talks for years about some kind of deep partnership with one or more organizations whose specific role is to get mentors, tutors, people like that with people. So I think it would be great for us to at least have a conversation with her.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. Is Alyssa's email in the chat?
Someone will put it in there.
Okay, so, yeah, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it.
And it's also on the NeoSTEM website, but someone will get it in there. Alyssa, sorry, go ahead.
No, I had a question, I guess. Are you looking for suggestions on changes to the language or just reaction to it?
Emily, you are smart people, certainly smarter than me. I am looking for First of all, I am of no importance. Alyssa is looking
Okay.
for all of that, all of the above. So
Yeah, I
suggestions.
think one of the things that Jennifer Irvin mentioned, and I think is possibly missing strictly from the language, like Alyssa was saying, is the word partnership on that first page. So through community partnerships. And I was thinking just about it a little bit more in forms of like getting digital access for students and things like that. There may be a piece about advocacy in there because a lot of that has to do with public funding too.
Mhm.
And if, and I know there's balance obviously with a nonprofit, but is there some form of advocacy where ties could say, you know, that this is what we need to try to change or bring forward as a collective in order to have greater access for the community? So, sorry.
Emily, I think those are really important and outstanding recommendations. Thank you. And I know they're being written down and the calls being recorded and all of that stuff. I also just got a message from Alyssa, since she's having trouble jumping in, that says that she's gonna that those 3 slides, you've got them, but she's also gonna be sending them emails, an email with that content out. So if things kind of pop up in your mind after you simmer on these things, everyone who's on this call right now, or if you have partners to share it with to get their feedback, we would love any additional feedback. I think it's really important that we've got a good starting point. But I agree with you, Emily, 100% on both of those. This focus on partnerships and assuming we can find the right balance, because you're right, it can get a little gray sometimes when you talk about advocacy and lobbying. It's a thin line between the two. But I agree with you, absolutely. Alyssa, I'm not sure if you're able to talk, but is there anything else you'd like to share? Give her a second to try to talk. Ooh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, there you are.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. My reception was even breaking up on my phone. So I'm terribly sorry. No, I think that everything that you've said and that others have shared makes a ton of sense. And I will send that out for additional, comment and feedback. And this will be then, the start of the redesign. And this is where Veronica and her work with us is going to begin to take shape in the next couple of weeks. You'll be hearing from her along with me and Jeremy too, of course. But yeah, thank you. And so happy for the connection, Amani, to Molly Spagali. We had them speak at a NeoSTEM meeting years and years and years ago. And it would be really good to reestablish. I think it was prior to her involvement. It would be really good to reestablish a relationship and figure out how to partner together. And Emily, thank you for your great comments too, and everybody. And thank you, Jeremy.
All right, so it says up on the screen, next steps, neostem.org. Make sure you bookmark it, visit it frequently. Our next meeting is December 8th. Hopefully everyone will be in better and brighter spirits at that point. We are also, by the way, open to exploring other regular times. There was some feedback that indicated that that this day of the month and this time was kind of ideal, but we can explore some other things as we move forward. It's really important, and we're very grateful for all of your participation and that you kind of come and you slog through all of this early work. I've got to tell you, having Veronica on the team here coming up, you're going to see some really powerful conversations and important changes happening. I'm really excited. I've seen what work is possible in a community with a strong ecosystem, and I'm really excited that all of you are here to make this one just as strong. Alyssa, do you have anything else before we close, or is that everything?
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Amani and anyone, Alyssa's email is there in the chat. It's alyssabriggs@tiesteach.org and www.neostem.org. Thank you all.